Driving through days and nights, won't stop for traffic lights. And I really wanna know if I will ever figure out where the road goes. Even if I'm falling down, I will keep on searching for my highs. You can say I lost my mind, I will keep on holding my head high, even if the sky is falling down. Jumping from cliffs so high, trusting our wings to fly. Sometimes we're crashing down, but we get up and start from the ground. And I really wanna know if I will ever figure out where the road goes. Even if I'm falling down, I will keep on searching for my highs. You can say I lost my mind, I will keep on holding my head high, even if the sky is falling down. Even if the sky is falling down, yeah. The sky is falling down. Whenever you're down, out in the cold, faithless and dark, your story's untold. Come take my hand and walk there with me. I know a place where we can be free. There is a light shining for you.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Tuesday Tea Time. I'm your guy, Icky Timey. We're going to be hanging out with a really cool cat today. But before we do, I just want to remind you, if you are watching along, go ahead and hit that like button. Go ahead and subscribe, follow us. I'm actually going to be posting this out to my Facebook today. So I'm going to drop this in, and then we're going to keep moving here. I'm going to say hanging out with Dr. Elder Pastor Ricardo. I'm going to spell his name right. Oh, there he is right there. Come catch our convo. Yeah, so I'm going to drop that in. I'm sharing it. I want to invite you to share it too. Put it out there to somebody else and share the goodness, my friends, because it's worth living a life that's positive and encouraging and inspiring, even in these difficult, crazy times. And even if you got to say some tough things, if you say it in the right way, man, I think it really builds life. I'm Icky Timey, and this is Tuesday Tea Time. Thanks for hanging out with us. We're going to be kicking it with this guy right here, Elder Ricardo Graham. He is currently the Presidente of the Pacific Union Conference. And at least at this point, he's going to be talking with us. We're going to be talking about how to be clear and courageous and how to become inspirational human beings in this world. When he discusses his journey with us and shares his stories, we're gonna go. We're just gonna take our time and move through it. We might ask him to rap. Nah, we might do that. We might. I don't know. But we're going to be spending that time together with him. Just before we get to him, I do want to remind you this. In about 2 hours, we're getting back into Thrive. This is our third day, and our speaker is Dr. Myron Edmonds. We're going to have a presenter who is a partner from the LA County Department of Mental Health. He's going to be talking about anxiety. People, I know you're struggling with some anxiety because everybody's struggling with anxiety. And if you are, it's okay. And it doesn't mean you're lacking faith. All right. So check in with us at 6 p.m. We're going to be doing this all week long, all the way up to Sabbath. Sabbath, we're going to be coming from Altadena. And after that, on Sunday, we're going to have a workshop for anybody who wants to get trained on mental health. It's going to be fantastic. So you don't want to miss out. Of course, that's at 6 o'clock tonight. But today, here right now, we're going to be hanging out with Elder Graham. Welcome, Elder Graham.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
I am good, man. Thank you for making it on. We're going to give you some love right now. Yes.
Thank you. I feel the love.
I hope so, because you're sitting in Northern California right now, right?
That's correct.
Ah, yes. How is the weather up there?
It's hot. It starts off very cool because we're in the valley. It starts off very cool, like 54 in the morning at 6 o'clock, and then it progressively warms up. And today, according to this thing, it's 82 right now. The high was 86.
Oh, mercy.
82.
82. Yeah. If you're watching along with us, we want to know what the weather is for you. I know sometimes we catch Andrea from Cambodia. We got a few of you down in the East Coast. Some of you, tell us, what's the weather like where you're at? Go ahead and drop it into the chat, and we'll keep an eye out for it. Plus, if you happen to have any comments or questions for the great Dr. Ricardo Graham, this is the time to throw it in. All right? Hey, Elder Graham, what you drinking today, man?
Well, today, because it's so hot, I decided against tea, but I have a glass of cool lemonade, homemade, made by the hands of my wonderful wife of 43 years.
Hey!
From lemons from our neighbor's house. Lemonade.
That's all right,
and
man.
And if that goes dry, I have a can of Talking Rain when I finish the glass. Sometimes I mix them so my lemonade has a little sparkle in it, you know?
Hey, man, what is that talking? It looked like it said talking rum, man. Come on, man. What is that?
No. Get it straight.
Right.
Talking Rain.
It's too early to get you in trouble, man. That's awesome. Talking Rain.
That's right.
That's fantastic. What's up, Hannah? Yeah, the best kind of lemonade. Right. That's right. She's right. Yep. So thanks for being on here, Hannah. And for the rest of you guys, thanks for joining in. We're going to be hanging out with Dr. Ricardo Graham here, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about life and ministry and leadership and, you know, what it means to be able to run this marathon of being a part of the church. You don't have to be in ministry, but being a part of the church is kind of a lifetime thing. So how do you do that, right? Dr. Graham, let's start here. How many years have you been in ministry?
I was surprised when I filled out some papers that it's 46.7 years.
Ooh.
A lifetime. Wow.
You've been in ministry longer than I've been alive. Because I'm 26. No, I'm not.
Yes, sir.
Wow, that's awesome, man. That is amazing. That kind of wellspring of knowledge and experience really is just, man, that's admirable. Many people come into ministry for a season and they leave, you know, and it's just not what they expected it to be. Many others burn out. Some leave for other reasons. You've been able to sustain this marathon for 46 years. Man, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Are they going to give you a car or, like, you know, take you to Disneyland or something?
They'll watch me go to Disneyland on my own dime.
On your own dime?
On my own time.
Right. On your own time. Oh, hey, Iz, good to see you on here, bro. Yes, a cool 70 degrees from Long Beach, because SoCal's got some good weather, man. Good to see you on here. Thanks, Izzy. Thanks, Hannah, for joining us. And thanks for the rest of you all for joining us. Keep dropping them in here. Drop us some comments and ask us some questions, and we'll take it straight to the man. Dr. Graham, Elder Graham, what did you get your doctorate in? No, let's start here. Did you always want to be in ministry?
No, but I always had a love for the church since I was a little boy. I loved going to church. My parents were not church people. They were raised, both my mother and my stepfather had very strong mothers who were in their respective churches. And I went to church frequently with my maternal grandmother. And from a little boy, I really had a love for the church. Always liked being in church.
So how did you get introduced to Adventism, or had you been always Adventist?
Oh no, no. My great grandmother was an Adventist. It's a rather long story, but she got baptized in a place in outside of Nashville, Tennessee, Centerville, Tennessee.
Mm.
But that was in the days of segregation, and the Adventist Church did not stand against segregation. And
Come
so,
on
since
now.
she
Woo-hoo.
was black,
Let me say that.
and the church was white, she could not go to church. But what she did, she kept Sabbath at home when she learned that
Mm.
truth, and she took her kids on Sunday to the Church of God. She had about 10 kids.
Wow.
My grandmother was one of those, and the whole family moved to Detroit. And I was born in Detroit. And when my great grandmother, Biney New Whiteside, got to Detroit, there was a large African American based church that she joined. And then she reconnected with Adventism and was an Adventist for the rest of her life.
Wow, wow, man, that's a powerful story about faith, about our faith community, and about the brokenness of our faith community, all in a few sentences. Mercy, man, that was good. I hope y'all watching along. That was a little bit of fire right there. I hope you caught it. Wow, man, you said a lot in those couple sentences.
Yes, yes.
So when was it? Did you have a moment in your life when you were like, okay, God, I see you. I'm gonna go into ministry? Because you said you've
Yeah,
always had a
yeah.
love for the church, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I joined the church at 14, the Adventist church, after going to church school for 3 years. And it's beautiful when they talk about friendship evangelism. The kids in that local school, it was called Berean, and it was operated
Mm-hmm.
out of the City Temple Church in Detroit. Those young people, the first day I arrived, they welcomed me like one of their own. It was like I was a
Mm,
long lost brother.
mm,
And I have friends from that period of time, even to now, to this day. Went to Oakwood with some of them, and then kept in touch with many of them, and they've been friends. So I joined the church. I've always had a love for people. Where I grew up in Detroit, it wasn't a deeply segregated time or spot where we grew up. So from elementary school, I went to school with people of all varieties of races and ethnicities, but primarily white people. And so I grew up. They were my neighbors. Uh,
hey,
Going to
shout out
high
to the white
school,
people. Love you guys.
yeah, yeah, and then going to I went to three different church schools in 3 years in the city of Detroit, and that's when I got acquainted with the Adventist faith, and I joined the church because of that, and then I learned the doctrines later. Of
Mm,
course, they gave me Bible studies, but I wasn't focused on that as a 14-year-old. I was with the
right,
kids.
right.
It was great. It was great.
Mm. To
So
belong
so
as
now
a,
so my call to ministry didn't really happen until about 6 or 7 years later, 20 or 21.
okay.
Uh, and I actually was doing what a lot of people do, try to run away from God. And I was,
Yeah.
hey man, I was trying to get down with the bad kids in the church, because there's always some good and some bad kids. They were
Mm-hmm.
smoking and getting their
Mm-hmm.
father's whiskey and bringing it around.
Mercy.
And so I actually had an event where I it brought me to my knees, and I just had to say, God, I'll give you my life, and whatever you want me to do, I'm following you. And that was the beginning of my true conversion. I wasn't really converted when I was baptized, but my conversion grew as I became an adult. I went to Oakwood College, now university. My first year, I was lost. I changed my major maybe 3 or 4 times in the first year at school, every quarter. Three. Yeah,
Every,
first I was an English major, and then a psychology major, and a behavioral science major.
right.
And
You
I
got to taste it
actually,
all to know which dish you like. So good on you.
so I came out to California to sell some books the summer of 1969, and I almost drowned there at either Playa del Rey or
Uh-huh.
Mission Bay Beach, one of those places down there. And when I came out of the water, I just asked myself, this one question came to my mind: Why are you alive?
Mm.
And that question led me for a while.
Mm. Mm.
I didn't have an answer for it, because I could have drowned.
Yeah.
I actually went down more than 3 times. Wasn't a strong swimmer, and The water was so cold, the undertow was so strong, and the water was so salty in my mouth.
Mm.
And I do remember calling out, "God save me," and He did.
Wow. Talk about baptism.
Yeah.
Came up with purpose, huh? Mercy.
Well, I got on the shore and I started thinking about, my parents. I had not gone home after school. I left school that summer and drove with a group of people from California straight. And I just thought the next time my parents would see me, I'd be in a casket. That's
Mm.
the imagery that came to my mind. And that led to another thing, a few other things that happened. And eventually, one night I got on my knees and I said, "Lord, I'll, I'll, I'll do it your way, whatever you want me to do." And Icky, I tell you, I have never felt a physical peace just
Uh.
came over me. I was 21 years old, and man, I had never felt like that before in my life. It's just God just He came in that room, and the Spirit of God just brought me peace. And I was chill. I was cool.
Hey.
It was man. It was an amazing experience. And the only time I can think that has really been not exactly equaled. This is going to be funny to you young folks. When I prayed about retiring, God gave me a sense of peace.
Wow.
and, and joy and joy.
Yeah.
So I'm about to retire in a few months, but I've done what God has called me to do as far as I knew how to do
Man, got touched down. He said, "Hey,
it.
straighten it out." Gave you the piece on the entrance and gave you a piece on the exit, man. That's praise the Lord.
Yes, sir.
Praise the Lord.
Yes, sir.
So let me ask you this. Your name is Ricardo Graham. You are a generational African American.
Yes.
Where does the name Ricardo come from?
I get asked that question frequently, and
I
the
bet you
truth.
do.
Here is the truth. It was given to me by my mother. There's a little embarrassing story that I don't share behind that, Icky. So give me a pass on that one, please.
All right. Hey, next time you're on here, we're not gonna let you pass, man. You better come up with a good lie. Oh, hey, Franklin Grant, that's my man right there, coming in from Compton, 79 degrees. Good to see you on here, Pastor Grant. Franklin Grant and I pastored together down in the Gardena area before he sold me out, man. Jumped ship, ran away, and pastored up in the Hollywood area. And he's a phenomenal guy, man. Phenomenal, good fella. So that's great, man. Okay, so your mama gave you that name, Ricardo. That's a strong. I've always wondered. Every time I saw it, I was like, Ricardo, man. Is he like Caribbean? Did he come from? Or like, but. There it is.
Yep. Born in Detroit. Roots go back to Nashville, as far as I can trace them, to Centerville, Tennessee on one side.
Yeah.
Atlanta, Georgia on the other side. Yeah.
That's beautiful, man. I know that this is going to be a big ask because you've been in ministry for about 46 years. But are there any moments that stick out to you where you would say this right here was a mountaintop experience for me as a pastor? As a minister?
Yeah, some people may think that it's a great thing to be elected to a conference presidency, which I was, and then to the union president. But the truth of the matter is that I was very happy pastoring my churches.
Yeah.
I never asked anybody to vote me or put my name on any list for consideration. But I always told God I was willing. God, I'm willing to do what you want me to do, but you want me to do it, Lord. You got to make it happen. I'm not pushing any doors. You've got to open the doors. And I read something on Facebook one time. It says that when God closes a door, wait in the hall until He opens another.
Ha.
God has plans, like Jeremiah 29:11 tells us. That God has plans for us to prosper us, to give us peace. And God is all about that all the time, even when we are trying to run away from that destiny that God has planned out for us. He doesn't force it on us, but if we're willing to follow His plan, it'll be the best fulfilling thing in your life. So my mountaintops experience, yes, being elected a president, at two levels. And administration is not always fun because you have to deal with issues. But being a pastor is not always fun because there's always challenges in life. You know, there's only two groups of people, who don't have problems and challenges. Only two. The first group is the dead. They don't have any problems or challenges. The second group, the 4 and 20 elders in heaven. They're just praising God all the time.
Yeah, right.
So, but all the rest of us,
yeah,
we got problems, challenges, and they come. But the greatest times, perhaps when I baptized my children, that was tremendous, mountaintop.
Wow.
Any time I baptized somebody was a joy, and I love preparing sermons and preaching. Having 2 books published, that was great. And of course, walking through life with my wife, it's been an adventure. She has been such. I called her one day. I told her she is my BB, and
BB.
she said, "Yes." She said, "What is a BB? A little round metal thing out of a gun?" I said, "No, not that.
Yeah.
But BB, you are my best blessing." God is always about blessing us, and we have to recognize the blessings and give God the glory and thanks. So, there have been many times when I haven't known what to do, and I've prayed, and I may not have gotten a direct answer to my prayer when I wanted the answer to come. But God is always about answering prayers, even prayers that are prayed by people with little faith. We would be amazed at the infinitesimal amount of faith that we need for God to answer us. Jesus said, the faith of a mustard seed, one of the smallest seeds visible to eye. Jesus said, if you had the faith of a mustard seed, you could move mountains. So we need to, trust God, and then God will help our faith to grow, and then he will use us to do the things that bring satisfaction, joy, and fulfillment to our own beings, and bless other people in the process. And I'd much rather be a blessing to someone rather than to be a curse.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the truth. My daughter is getting to the age where she wants to get baptized, and she's been talking to me about that. Let me tell you, I'm so excited about it. Like, I'm trying to keep it together, but she's really interested. She loves the Lord, when she wants to get in there and do it. And I'm like, ooh, but I don't know how. I'm glad I heard that from you because. I'm just trying to imagine what it's going to be like when I actually baptize her. I'm one to weep a lot. I weep a lot.
Yeah, that's okay. How old is your daughter?
She's 8. She's 8.
Okay.
And so she's been bugging me, and bugging me, Dad. I want to get baptized. Like, hey, so what are we gonna do? And so I said, well, let's just wait it out a little bit. We'll wait till the fall, and then we'll do some studies and we'll get it going. And kind of doing that thing. But at the same time, I don't want to quelch her desire.
Absolutely.
She's got such a spirit, man. She's got such a spirit.
Absolutely.
That's my girl. She's like my spitting image, which may not be so good for her, but. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us here. I am with Dr. Ricardo Graham. We're talking a little bit. We're catching up about our ministry, and then we're going to do the 3-2-1 hack. So he's going to give us 3 practical tips in 3 practical areas that will help you be better at that particular area. All right. So if you stick with us, we're going to get to that. I got a couple more questions for him before we transition in this time. Dr. Graham, let me ask you, what is your do you have a least favorite moment, or a moment where you're like, man, this is not the business when it comes to ministry?
Yeah. It has always been painful for me to come to the point where a person's fallenness has become so public in the community that the community wants to ask that person to leave the church. That's always been painful. And yet as a pastor, the pastor is the chair of the church and business session where those things can be discussed, and the chair of the church board where they come from. So it's those type of things when I have stood up and said something that was not accurate, thinking it was. You know,
Yeah.
that's not cool. And then
No.
later, for example, I have a sermon that I preach, and in the beginning of the sermon, I tell a story about Franklin D. Roosevelt, who was actually elected 4 times to the presidency of the United States. Then, after he passed away, Congress changed it to two maximum of 2 terms consecutively. So I was standing up preaching about, and I was mentioning the story, and I said he was elected 3 times. At the end of the sermon, a gentleman came to me and said, "Young man, Franklin D. Roosevelt was elected 4 times." And he walked off. I said, "Oh man, the whole church heard me say that it was 3 times, and oh man, they're gonna go home thinking I don't know my stuff." Wow. So, but the painful thing of watching a person that you perhaps given Bible studies to, and
Mhm.
they intellectually understand, but they don't agree. Perhaps they can't argue against what you've shown them in Scripture, but they refuse to demonstrate a desire to join the community, the church that collectively believes those things and upholds those things. Those are some down times for a pastor. Um, you know, Watching people, when I grew up, it was a big church in Detroit. We had 1,500 members, and back in the
Wow.
heyday, they all came. They
Wow.
all came to church. If you didn't get
Yeah.
there for Sabbath school, you didn't get a seat. If you didn't get there for Sabbath school, and it was a great time in the '60s for our Adventist church across North America, at least.
Hmm.
And uh, uh, to see some kids join the church, and then the kids who were in charge, the in group, would not accept them as friends, and to watch those people
Mm.
walk away from the church because they couldn't find a place to fit.
Yeah.
They couldn't find a place to be welcome. Everybody needs to be welcome in the church.
Yeah.
They need to
Absolutely.
find a place to celebrate their belief in God.
I believe that in the last bit of the report from the GC on why people leave, that was a big portion of it.
Hmm.
Was that people didn't feel like they belonged.
Hmm.
At least that's how he summarized it, and it's very true. If we
Yeah.
if we don't learn how to be the kind of community that invites people to be a part of this, um, it's going to continue to harm us. So, what did you get your doctoral degree in?
Uh, I'll tell you that my doctoral degree, the title of my dissertation is a Seventh day Adventist in Race Relations with the selected New Testament scriptures and pertinent statements from the books of Ellen G. White. And what I was searching for was an answer to the question that plagued me.
Mm.
You see, east of the Mississippi, we have what we call regional conferences. They
Yep.
are black conferences. All the officers are black, and the churches are predominantly black. And the state conferences exist in the same geographical area, but the regionals have 3 or 4 states that they cover. And it was a long time before I even met another white Adventist when I grew up there in Detroit. Not that there weren't white people around. My high
Yeah.
school, I was in the minority of my high school was white, but in terms of the church, it was a long time before I found out who that there really were white Seventh Day Adventists, and they had churches in the city of Detroit.
Hmm.
Um, and so the question came to me one time when I was doing evangelism, and the old evangelists, we would have a message that had been pioneered by E. Cleveland or Fortis Dedamore, some of those men who've gone to the graves. They're waiting for Jesus to come.
Hmm.
Uh, and one was the true church. And so after I preach this sermon about the true church, and I talk about what the true church holds and what it has, what it teaches, what it believes, someone would say, well, if your church is a true church, why is there a black one over here and a white one over there?
Ooh. Ooh.
So that was a
Mm.
question that when I had to decide what to write my dissertation on, our advisor said, you have to have something that is going to sustain you over a period of time, because they gave you 3 years to write it, to
Right.
finish it off. So I had to have something, and I did it while I was working. So I had to have something that I could pick up and work with at different intervals of time. And so that's what I came with, and so I studied the history of how Seventh Day Adventists have interacted with race relations in North America. I don't know what happens in other parts of the world, but since I lived and worked here in North America, both on the East Coast and then here on the West, I had a pretty good view of things happening, and that's what my dissertation was on.
Man, that is actually very interesting for those who understand the structure that is here on the North American ground landscape. Because when you're east of the Mississippi, you've got conferences that are region conferences and state conferences, and then west of that, you've got us. And yet still, we are trying to figure all of that out. Like, how do we be a church, one church, with such I don't know if it's division or if it's, we work in silos too often. And how do we resolve that? So did you get the answer for us? By the way, just before you tell us the exact answer to that problem so we can fix all of our issues here, a shout out to Pastor Grant. Thank you, Pastor Grant. That's good to hear. And yeah, Chico's a good dude. So if we follow in the footsteps of your son, we're doing good. Smith High, good to see you. And Matthew, yeah, is your dissertation available somewhere? Matt, that's a great question, Matt. Is your dissertation available somewhere? Is it on Netflix?
No, it's not on Netflix.
Okay.
It may be available somewhere, but as I have read it after I wrote it, I think that the chapters are uneven. There's some chapters that I really did real good academic work in it. There are others I didn't get the high peak like I did in most of them, because as you're writing, you get this pressure from your advisor, and eventually all you really want to do is get it done.
Right.
So I got it done, and I was approved to graduate. And someone told me that they read it somewhere, and it may be placed online. It may be available in the Graduate Theological Union library, because I went to the school there in San Anselmo, FSTS, and it may be available in there. They have a shared. There are several seminaries in Northern California around Berkeley, and it's called the Graduate Theological Union, and they have a shared library. So I'm sure, I wrote that in 92, so I'm sure that someone has digitized it and it's available somewhere. I just haven't looked for it. I don't have a bound copy myself. I have a copy that I was supposed to get bound, but I never did, and it's in a box. I need to get it bound one of these days. In my retirement, I'll have more time. So
that's so uniquely interesting, because for the times that we're living in, it's so relevant.
Yeah,
it's really relevant to be talking about this and to think about this particular topic, race and faith. Race and the world that we live in. And you've always been a champion for this. I'm really proud of that fact, and I'm thankful that you are. But you've always that's got to be a challenge, to lead a group of people and also to speak out about injustices that even the group of people may not be aware that are doing it, but that are participating in that very that very injustice. On one level or another.
Oh yeah, it's a very interesting phenomenon that we can look at, and the Seventh Day Adventist Church has made some great strides in this area. I am not ashamed of being a Seventh Day Adventist. I am proud of being a Seventh Day Adventist. That does not mean that I ignore our weaknesses and our Achilles heel. And we have, across the board with social justice, we have room to grow to be like Jesus, in my opinion. And there are some who would differ with me. However, and that's people's right. In America, we can express our opinions and we can differ. And hopefully we're mature enough to differ with people without castigating them or telling them how bad they are or proclaiming how evil a person they might be because they have a different opinion and don't agree with us. But let me say this, that after George Floyd's murder in Milwaukee, the Pacific Union Recorder, published an issue on social justice. And I wrote an article entitled, that was July of 2020. I wrote an article called Love in a Hard Spot. That was the title of my article. I did not pick the pictures, but pictures were chosen by the editorial staff. I never see them until it's done. And they had taken some pictures of Black Lives Matter signs and juxtaposed them right next to my article. I mentioned BLM, I think 2 or 3 times. I used those 3 letters in my article. And I received a lot of mail and emails and telephone calls to the office. I answered each email that I got, and each hard letter I got, I answered. And each phone call that came to the office, I returned. That's part of doing the business. And people expressed their disappointment. Most of those people, unfortunately, read something into it that wasn't there. You know what the theologians talk about, eisegesis and exegesis. Exegesis is pulling what is in the text out. Eisegesis is putting something that's not in the text there. And so that's what happened with my article. People said that I was supporting and the union was joining the Black Lives movement. And that was not the case. What I said was that there were a lot of people joining all around the world of all different types of people speaking out against police brutality and racism, which was a fact. And my wonderful Adventist members could not separate that from the fact that it was being admitted in a journal of the Adventist Church. It's the reality of life that this man died. We saw it. That young girl who was 18 at the time, or 17 at the time, that recorded it. If she had not recorded it, we would never have believed that a policeman could have put his knee on someone's neck for that length of period of time, or that that person died as a result of that. And so, as a Black man, I've been stopped by the police. I've been followed in department stores. And I haven't felt good about every day that I've lived in America. I will say this. I'm not ready to leave America. This is where I was born, and this is most likely where I will die. However, just because this is what I consider the best country on earth, it's not the best it could be. And the Adventist Church, we have the values to help. And this is the problem with Christianity, not the Christ of Christianity. The problem is not the Church of Christ, meaning his organization. I believe all the doctrines as best as they have been explained to me, and I understand them. The problem is with the people who are failing to perform up to the standard of Jesus Christ. You know, we will not often take really hard looks at ourselves and say that this is what I find in me that will lead me to Calvary on bended knee. And there's a need for us to be brutally honest when it comes to issues of Christian living. And,
Absolutely.
And I think we have failed. You've read the book, You Lost Me, or An Unchristian. Those 2 books were very revelatory because it said why young people are leaving the church. And one startling reason is the inauthenticity, or the unauthentic people who are saying they're Christians.
Yeah, that's truth. That's truth. And I believe that on a bigger scale, whether it's the church or your relationships or yourself, unless you are honest with yourself about it, you will never be able to get the full scope of that relationship or of yourself, because you're not willing to look at all of the situation, right? You're constantly living in a delusion, if you will, and not willing to look at all angles And that's true for church as well. We can be proud of the church that we're part of. We can love that's why we're
Amen.
part of this church. We
Amen.
love this church.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make us perfect. Anything this side of heaven doesn't get the title perfect unless your name is Jesus. So,
Right.
Jesus walked with his disciples for quite some time, and he had to call one of them Satan. I mean, like, so
True.
we could be real close to Christ, but it doesn't make us a perfect place, and we should be okay with that. We should be humble enough to look at ourselves, critique ourselves, and be willing to say, where am I unlike Christ the most? What would Jesus do here, and are we coming along? So I resonate with what you're saying. It's beautiful, it's true, and in about a month you can say whatever you want to say because you're retired. So.
Well, actually, I don't retire until October the 1st, but August the 16th, I will no longer be the president.
Before retirement is October the 1st?
Right.
All right, we'll have you on October the 2nd.
Oh, my.
Hey, let's get into our 3-2-1 hacks. We've burned through more than half our time together. And Elder, I want to thank you for coming on here. If you guys are on with us, jump on here, drop a comment, ask a question. And let us know what's happening in your realm. What are some things that you love about your life right now? Talk to us about a question about leadership. If you want to become a better leader, ask a question. It doesn't have to be church leadership. That's what we're specifically and uniquely talking about because that's Elder Graham's wheelhouse. But leadership is also I think it's cross-platform. Like learning certain principles and values really helps you being better at leadership overall. So go ahead and do that for us. But we're going to go right into the 3-2-1. And the 3-2-1 hacks is an area where we invite our guests to share something in their expertise, in their wheelhouse, that'll make you better at that particular thing. So you could do this thing when you hear this. If you do it, these practical things, you will immediately become a little bit better at this. You're going to grow from doing these 3 things. So the first one, Dr. Graham, if you will, is can you give us 3 tips on, let's do church leadership, since this is your 46 plus years. What is 3 tips on how to become a better church leader?
Well, number 1 is integrity. You got to be honest. I mean, if you mess up, confess up. If you do something wrong, don't let others name it first. Name it yourself. But also don't just admit it. Make an intentionality to change it. It's sometimes hard to do in an area of life. But as a church leader, you've got to be one who tells the truth and has integrity. The second thing is that you've got to put your work in. Whatever office you may hold in the church as a layperson or as a pastor, hey, you got to learn what really is involved in that task, and then try to discover everything about what you're going to be doing so that you can become an expert. And an expert doesn't mean that you know more than anybody else. The expert means that you know more than you did before. So day by day, little by little, grow yourself into being that leader that you can be proud of and that God can point his finger at and say, there's my woman leading. There's my man, he's leading with the blessings that I have given them. And probably another thing is that I believe is very important. Honor people's time. If you're a preacher, my son, he was probably 19 when he said this. We were both at a church listening to another preacher. And after the service, he said, Daddy, it's a terrible thing to waste people's time like that. That preacher was missing it that day. If you're a leader in the church and you have a speaking role, be prepared. Prepare yourself. Study. A good preacher really knows more about what he's going to preach than he can give in a half an hour. Be over prepared, be oversaturated, be over submersed. And then here's the top thing. You got to submit to God every day. I mean, you got to get down on your knees. You got to pray when you're driving. When you go into that meeting and people say things to you, don't think of things to say back. Pray while they're beating you up, while they're talking about you in front of your face. I had a man in a church in Kalamazoo, Michigan. He's passed away now, years ago. And he said things like, I'm not talking about you behind your clothes. I'm talking about you up under your nose. People will, they will beat up on leaders but you be a praying person. Take it. Take it. It'll help you grow. The beating you take today will prepare you for the beating that you get tomorrow. And I've been beaten up on by the world church, and I'm still standing. So, so, so you get tough skin not from running from a fight, but staying in the fight. And I don't mean a physical fight. I mean a mental, verbal fight. Lean on God. Call him every hour of the day. You can't wear him out. He's never sleeping. He's never too busy. You may not get the answer immediately because some parts may depend on him moving on other people, but he always hears your prayer.
That's good. That's good. Alhambra asks a great question. What do you say to a layperson who has been in leadership for a while and has seen not much change in the church? Well, what do you say to them? How do you inspire them, encourage them?
Well, I would ask them what change would they like to bring, and how would they be the change that they want to see. Uh, a famous person, I forget who exactly said it. I read this again on somebody's post in Facebook. Be the change you want to see in the world. My wife is passing by hearing me. She said, Gandhi said that, Mahatma Gandhi. Be the change you want to see in the world. And my son said it this way: don't talk about it, be about it. If you want to change something, do it. Don't wait for somebody else. Do the little part that you can do to bring about the change. If there are not enough friendly people in your church, you be the friendliest person in your church. If there's trash around your church, don't wait for the deacons to pick it up. You pick it up. Make a church a better place by your individual personalized activity. Lend your talents to bring change to the church. Agree with other people on what needs to be changed and form a group who become change makers, not tearing something down. You can't build anything while you're deconstructing it. But if things are not built right, you can correct the building. You can correct the building by what you are doing. And there are some people who are locked in on old ideas. Those old ideas worked at a time. It may be a time for some new ideas added to the old ones based on the same principle and precept that's been we can do a lot of things different as long as we don't forsake the core. And at the core is Jesus crucified, risen, and coming again. Jesus is crucified, risen, and coming again.
Man, I hope somebody's listening to this right now. I hope you heard this. I know this is just for you. And Dr. Graham, thank BB for that quote source for us.
Here's another one on the same line. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. A small group of committed Christians, regardless of age, regardless of gender, they can change the climate of the church. And remember, nothing's going to change unless the culture changes first. You can have programs, you can have whatever you want to call them, but strategy summits, culture will kill strategy in the morning. Eat it for breakfast. The culture has to be changed, and the culture is in the hands of the people who are there, who are living it. Bring a breath of fresh air yourself. You be responsible for doing something different to make your church a better place.
Man, that's so good, man. That is so good. Wow. Okay, well, thanks for that. That's a great question, Alhambra. Appreciate that. And that was our 3 tips. We're going to go to 2 tips. Elder Graham, can you give us 2 tips on how to have fun? Because everybody's got uptight. We've got stuff we got to do. It's easy to get overwhelmed by the world around us and by your responsibilities, by your titles. What are 2 things you can do right now to create more fun in your life?
Well, number one, you can focus on your hobby. Everybody should have a hobby, a diversion from your work or your studies that brings you joy. Joy is maybe not exactly fun, but joy and fun can run on parallel tracks. So I enjoy photography. My wife and I, we took a trip. We went over to Utah, and I took a bunch of pictures. I took my camera, and I actually rented a big lens to take some pictures down in Utah. And we went to 2 of the Mighty 5 national parks they have. We went to Arches, tremendous arches. I think I have a picture on my website, my Facebook site. On those that
pick
trip.
it up, follow him on Facebook. He's got him on there.
And you should have a group game that you enjoy. My kids, our children learn to play Monopoly at 4 and 5 years old. And during the summers when they were out of school and I would come home from being visiting people in the church and whatnot, the Monopoly board would be up all week from Sunday until Friday afternoon. And then it would come down. And then on Sunday, it would come out again. And we play that. My wife was always very productive and she's doing housework. But the kids and I, we spend 2 or 3 hours every night playing Monopoly. Have fun with other people, interact with other people, find your friends, not just your best friends, but you can turn your friends into better friends if you give them attention and include them in your fun activities. And you know, even I would even say this, and this may sound strange coming from a Seventh-day Adventist church leader. We all know that we watch TV, we stream videos, watch some comedies, laugh.
I agree.
I mean, 2020 has been a tough year, and it's still the vestiges of COVID-19 are still lingering.
Yep.
We're not out of this yet. And so we need to also think about the good things that God has brought us through. And that's probably where we should start. Just think back, because we sometimes forget what God has done for us. That brings us fun, makes us feel happy and fantastic.
Yeah, you got to pump those endorphins a little bit, and that's
Yes,
all
sir.
right.
Yes, sir.
Get out and do something. Obviously, you've been getting out and doing some stuff because you look like a third of the man you were before. Like,
Thank you. I've lost.
I mean, you look great before,
pounds.
but mercy. Good job.
Stop lying, brother. I was fat. fat. I've turned a new leaf. My wife has always been a healthy cook. I've become a healthy eater. So
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
My wife learned to play pickleball, and so I'm learning how to play pickleball now. Great game.
Yeah. Yes. And take it from Elder Graham here. He said, "Look, man, watch something funny. It's okay to laugh. All right. So if you're watching along, go ahead and drop in the comments something you like. Well, what's a comedy that you enjoyed that made you laugh lately? We're all right with that. Just drop it in here, and we're gonna keep rocking. Now you're gonna give us one more tip. We need one tip. Give us one tip on how to inspire the next generation."
You know, the biggest thing that I can think about inspiring people is the hope that we have in Jesus. You know, most of our churches are, and I'm not trying to put anybody down, I'm just trying to acknowledge reality. Most of our churches are not bursting at the seams.
Yeah.
And most of our churches do not have a lot of young people. And part of that is demographics. People are having less children these days, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But I think there's enough young people around to be won to the church. So the most inspiring thing I get is reading the scriptures and the writings of Ellen G. White. Every year, I try to read, in January, I read the book Steps to Christ. When my travel and meeting commitments have been low, and they're going to get really, really low after August, no more meetings. But I would always start the first of the year, I would read that book through. Steps to Christ is very powerful. It's almost like a description on how to come to God, a spiritual formation. The church does not like to use those words because there's a negative connotation to that based upon some misteaching of some theologies. However, there is a way that God wants to form us into being his disciples, being his children, being those who reflect his love, his kindness, his mercy. And we can do that by coming to Christ. I think that we can bring hope to our own selves. The devil is going to deliver an evil message, a bad message, discouraging messages to us frequently. So we've got to have a source where we can combat that. You run to the Bible, read through Psalms where David is talking about praising God and giving glory to God because of being rescued from his enemies. And if you have enemies, people who don't want any of you, an enemy, someone who doesn't want any of me, God is for you at all times. And if you run to God, he will encourage you and inspire to you. Number two, look at those people who've done great things. Read biographies, not to copy their lives, but you will find that every person who achieved anything great in this world, they have been through something and overcome it. They have overcome sexism, racism. They've overcome disabilities. They've overcome lots of things to get to the point of success. They may not be perfect, but reading their stories, particularly the story of Daniel in the Bible and David, it gives inspiration to read about Jesus giving a promise to come back again. And that is probably the most inspiring thing. That's what turns me on, that Jesus is not a liar. He's coming back. Now, we don't know what he meant when he said soon. We think it's tomorrow, but obviously it wasn't yesterday. But but he is coming, and in his framework of eternity, it's soon. And I believe that God is going to keep his word. That's inspirational to me. It's inspirational to me to know that there are other Christians in the church who love God. You should find the most kind person in your church and talk to them, because usually
that's
there's
a good
a reason
piece of
they're
advice
kind.
right there.
Yeah.
Ooh,
So
that's a good one.
I probably gave you more than you asked for, but
Woo. No, that's good. That's good. Hey, I really like that, so I'm going to repeat it. This is a good one. Find the kindest person in your church and talk to them, because they're probably modeling Jesus the best. Those are my words. That's not. I'm not putting that on the president.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
But yeah. That's man, that is good, man. Talk about mentorship. I like it. So can you believe it? We've burned our time together.
Wow.
Elder Graham, it moved pretty quick. We've got a few more minutes, and everyone, we're gonna play. I'm gonna just drop the game in here because I figured let's have fun. I didn't even write down the options. Usually I make a long list. This time I'm gonna come off the dome, and I want you to come with me. We're gonna play the Love One, Leave One game, okay? And it's real simple. I want all of you to join us as well. This is a Love One, Leave One game. Really simple. I'm going to give you two options, Elder Graham, and you're going to have to choose which one of those that you will love. The thing that you love, we're going to keep that as a part of our life and enjoy it. Everyone in the world gets to enjoy that thing from now till eternity. Whatever you don't choose to love, that thing disappears forever, like never again in existence can anyone use it. No pressure, but pressure. So I'm gonna put about a minute and a half on the clock, and then I'm gonna just start shooting some questions, options, and you have to choose one. Are you down? You ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you guys out there, play along with us. Drop it into the comments. Get your fingers ready to text it in or type it in. And I'm going to put a minute and a half, and we're going to go. Give us your answers, too. All you have to say is love, ... and we'll know that you mean leave the other. Here we go. Ready? All right. Love Disneyland or Hawaii? One of them has to go for eternity. Never again to be seen.
Love Hawaii.
All right. Peace out, Disney. Okay. All right. Lakers or Warriors? One must disappear forever. Ever.
Love the Warriors.
Oh, man. You cut me deep. This is over. Our time is done here. Our time is done. Thai food or Jamaican? Whew.
Oh, man. That's a hard one.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Thai food.
Oh, no more jerk chicken, veggie chicken. All right, cool. All right, moving on. We're going to go, let's see, preaching or a really good praise worship set. One of those got to go. You can never have it again. Never again.
Preaching.
Ain't nobody singing anymore in church, y'all. We're over it. All right. Okay. All right. Let's go. Let's see if I can get one more in here. Let's go. Church attire or beach clothes forever.
Beach clothes.
You're saying that because you're retired. That's why you're saying that. Oh, good job. All right, my friends. Thank you for joining us, everybody. You did a fantastic job there, Elder Graham. I appreciate your answers. Matthew, yes. Beach clothes, absolutely. And Matt says, it's been great listening to this. Pastor Icky, Dr. Graham, Thanks for setting it up and being willing to sit down for this. Yeah, and I agree,
Absolutely.
Matthew. Thank you. I really appreciated our time together here, Elder Graham. As we close out, I often ask one similar question to everybody, and that's this. If you could say a few words to that person out there who's listening in about being a part of this church with all of its glorious goodness and its brokenness, what would you say? Could you share some closing words with us, Elder Graham?
Yes. Don't hold Christ captive to the people. Stick in the church because it's Christ's body. It needs you. Don't let anybody throw water on your fire. Stay hot for God by getting close to Jesus and letting him kindle a fire in your heart. God's church is going to come through because God has promised it will. And I want you to be there when it happens, because I want to be there when it happens too.
Thank you, Elder Graham. That was powerful. And thank you all for joining in with us, jumping in on the game and hanging out with us. Remember, 6 o'clock tonight, Thrive is going to get started. We're gonna get it right here in the same channel, the ONEHousesocal channel here on YouTube. Come on and enjoy with us. And you know what? Next week, we're going to have an open session. So join us next week on Tuesday. But until then, may the Lord bless you, keep you safe, and watch after you. God bless you, my friends. Peace and love. Thank you, Dr. Graham. You're the best.